Hi everyone, my name is Santina and I am a domestic violence survivor. So, in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I wanted to come and share my story with you. So, before I get started with the story, I just want to remind everyone if you're watching this video, please don't forget to like and comment. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, I just wanted to remind you to please do so. Hit that post notification bell so that you can be notified whenever we go live or whenever we post a video. Thank you once again for watching. Now let's get into the story. All right, so I went through domestic violence for 3.5 years. Well, not the whole 3.5 years because it didn't start off that way. But I was in the relationship for 3.5 years, and for the first, I'll say 6 months, everything was good, and then things just took a turn. So, the person who, abused me was my son's father. Our background story, pretty much. I grew up in foster care, which a lot of you who watch my videos know. And in one of my foster homes, I met my son's father. Now, I wasn't adopted or anything like that. It was just a foster placement. We met and we were supposed to be cousins. Like, if we got adopted, he would have been my cousin. So, but we didn't get adopted, and I really wasn't planning on sticking around there for too long. I was already 17 or 16, going on 17, and getting ready to be out of the system. So, we really, really liked each other. So we kind of snuck around and had our little relationship. Now, again, I was 16, he was 15. He was the sweetest young man, he was my first like true boyfriend, and he really liked me and I really liked him. He was handsome, tall, he didn't care about the fact that I had a visual impairment. He didn't care that I couldn't see that well. He was just very sweet. So we dated for a couple months, and then he ended up leaving and going to stay with his dad. Now, his dad was kind of different. Him living with his mom was real nice and cool. I enjoyed her. Like, she would have been my favorite aunt, you know what I'm saying, if I would have got adopted. So he left to go live with his dad. So that kind of he would come to the church sometimes. Him and his dad would come to the church, his family or whatever. But eventually they just stopped coming all together, and I completely lost contact with him. And then I ended up leaving my foster home that I was in at the time and going to a different foster home, which was still right there, right around the corner. Now, Monroe, I was living in Monroe, Michigan. Very small city. Everybody pretty much knew everybody. I'm coming from Detroit, big city, people mind their business. Everybody's not all up in everybody's business, whatever. But going from there to a small city like Monroe, everybody knew everybody. Everyone grew up together. It was just, everybody was pretty much family. And so my son's father, he didn't really grow up in Monroe per se, but he spent a good deal of his childhood there. And so he knew everybody, he knew a lot of people knew him. And even my foster family that I moved to next, he knew them. Right? So the foster family I moved to after leaving his family, there was a young lady that I met at school. She instantly became my friend, and they stayed right down the street from where I was living in my ex-boyfriend's family, my previous foster home. So a couple years had went by, and I'm living with my foster family, and everything's going good. And then um, my foster family has a church, and the church we started to develop a daycare. So I'm working at the daycare. A couple years go by. Fast forward to age 23. No, 22. 22. Yeah, 22, I believe. So I'm over here. I'm over working at the daycare, whatever. We had a Christian daycare within our church, and it was pretty good. So it was family based. So me and all my foster sisters and brothers, and of course, my foster parents, we all ran the child care. So one day I'm working. I remember exactly what I had on. It's crazy that I remember because my memory don't usually be the best at times. But I remember I had on, because it was one of my favorite outfits at the time, one of my favorite comfortable outfits. I had on some blue Nike track pants, and I had on a red Nike sweatshirt. That was my favorite pants and my favorite shirt, and I had them all together. So, okay, I'm working. Next thing you know, my ex-boyfriend comes walking through the door, because like I said, he knew my family. He didn't know I was with them, because he left before I really got to know them. But he came walking in the door of the daycare, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I hurried up and ran home because I was looking a mess. I ran home. I fixed my hair a little bit. Was trying to look, kind of cute or whatever. I also had on some white Nike shoes, So I go to fix myself up a little bit, trying to see if I can make myself look a little bit cute. Then I came back over there, and I think at the time I was off of work, and I was just over there hanging with my siblings because I had my own place at this time, and I lived right next door to the church, like dead smack next door. Like the daycare used to use my backyard as a play area for the kids, and my parents owned the house that I lived in anyway, so you know it was easy for them to just use that backyard, which was cool, because I worked there anyway. And so pretty much I go back to the daycare, and I'm like, oh, hey, we hug each other, and, we talk for a little bit. And, I find out I already knew he was staying with his dad, and now he's back here in Monroe living with his mom again, and, whatever. So we got to talking, catching up with each other. And then I invited him over my house, I think for dinner one day. And so we talked. I had a couple other people over there too. So, he stayed for a little while, then he left. And then time went on, we started to build a relationship, like a real relationship this time. I'm 22, I think he's 21. And everything was going good. He would come to my house. I never went to his house because he stayed with his mom, even though I knew his mom. But it's like, we had more privacy at my house. And so next thing you know, a couple months go by, and I end up pregnant. And I was actually happy in a way because, like, this is my childhood crush, like my childhood love. Like, I loved this boy when I was a teenager, and I just felt like we got a second chance to get back together. Like, wow, maybe we're meant to be, to be together forever or whatever. So I ended up getting pregnant, and I was happy. He was cool with it. But I say once I hit 6 months, I was 6 months pregnant, that's when things started changing. And it started out with him starting to blame me for talking to other men, and I'm like, I never did. I've never had anything going on with anybody. I was pretty much to myself. I spent time with my family I only had one other boyfriend before I met back up with him, and I just wasn't out there like that. I don't know what made him think that, so it was like he started to feel insecure about things. And I'm like, why? I wasn't talking to this person. I don't even know, you know what I'm saying? Because the house I lived in, it was like a two-family house. Like there was a apartment upstairs, apartment downstairs. One of my foster sisters lived upstairs. Sometimes people would come into the house to go to her house because we used the same door. You got to come in. Was only one door to get into the house, but when you go into the house, it's like a little porch on the inside. And on one side of the porch, there's a door that leads upstairs, and the other side of the porch, there's a door that leads into my house. So I stayed downstairs. And, sometimes people would come in and they might be going to her house. But I don't know, he would say people would tell him, yeah, I saw such and such going in your girlfriend's house, or it was, I don't know. It started with that, but I was never doing anything to this man. And, later on, like I said, when I was 6 months pregnant at the time, he accused me of having something going on with my foster brother. I was in the bathroom doing something under the cabinet, looking for some cleaning supplies or something. I was doing something in the bathroom looking for something. And my brother came in there to talk to me. Now, the door was open. I wasn't using the bathroom. Nothing was going on. But for some reason, in my boyfriend's eyes, he felt like something wasn't right. Why was he in the bathroom with you? I'm like, what's the problem? It's not like I was using the bathroom or brushing my teeth. I was in there looking for something, and he was standing in the doorway talking to me. He didn't even come in the bathroom. He was standing in the doorway talking to me. Like, this is my brother. You know what I'm saying? We've all lived in the same house for years now by this time. I'm in my own house now, but we're used to being around each other a lot, me and my siblings. It's times I might go to be in the shower. My sister come in to get something or come in to use the bathroom or vice versa. Like, but my brother, he wasn't coming in a weird way. I was in there looking for something and he came to talk to me about something. I can't tell. I don't know what it was at this time, but he felt some kind of way about that. And so we're going back and forth about it because I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I don't understand what the issue is. We weren't sneaking, doing nothing. The door was open. He was in the doorway. What looked weird to you? So he gets mad and he pushes me across the room and I fall onto the couch. Thank God, I wasn't too far away from the couch, but I kind of flew into the couch, like, in a seated position on the couch. That's how he pushed me. And I was 6 months pregnant. And then after he did that, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. I'll, whatever, feeling so terrible, feeling so bad about pushing me like that. And then, of course, I forgave him. And we kind of made up. But in the back of my mind, I was uncomfortable because I'm like, why would he do that to me, And so as time went on, the abuse started to get more and more. It went from pushing to hitting, to forcing me to do sexual acts with him when I didn't want to. Like, it got to the point where I wasn't attracted to him anymore, but I felt trapped because I was carrying his child. And growing up in foster care, not having your parents, I didn't want my son to grow up without having his parents. So I was trying to hang in there, trying to, make sure I didn't say anything that would upset him or that would trigger him in any kind of way. But in an abusive relationship, there's really nothing that you can do to make the person treat you right. You know what I'm saying? Either they're going to say that you looked at them some way, or you rolled your eyes, or the way you said something. It's like You can be the most peaceful, calm person in the relationship, and they're going to find something to blow up at you about. That's how abusive relationships are, you know? So I was always going through something with this man. And to be honest, okay, everything did kind of calm down once he started working. I think the issue was the fact that he felt like a bum. He wasn't working, you know what I'm saying? And he just, took all his frustrations out on me. Because once he started working, things calmed down a lot. And this was after, once I'm going to go back to how things calmed down once he started working. But while I was pregnant, I had a horrible pregnancy. Like, after the 6 month, when things started to change, it was awful for me because I had to deal with this man mistreating me any chance that he could find. I still had my own place. He was living with his mom, but we spent most of our time together. So if I was at his house, which I spent most of my time at his house because my family didn't like him. Like, my foster mom did not like him because, she knew what kind of situation I was in. So she didn't want him at my house. So I would spend most of my time at his house, but I would have to go to my house to change my clothes, take a shower, whatever, check in with my peoples and see how everybody's doing and whatever. So when I would leave, he would time me. He would give me like 30 minutes because he stayed maybe about 3 blocks away from my house. And he would give me 30 minutes to get home, take my shower, and come back. And if I was late, I must have been up to no good. And he would hit me or something. Like, it was terrible. I was being timed to go home and take a shower. And I'm big and pregnant and I'm walking, So, I didn't get to experience having a baby shower. My family, the way my foster family is like, when you're getting ready to have your baby, everybody will come over, clean up your house, get everything ready for you and throw you a baby shower. But I didn't get to experience that because my son's father would not allow me to do it. Because, when you're in an abusive relationship, 9 times out of 10, these people are going to separate you from your family because they don't want any influences in your ear trying to convince you to get away from them. So I was eventually disconnected from my family. The only reason why I did see them sometimes is because the daycare was right next door to my house. And on the occasion, if I was home by myself, I would go over there and talk to them and, be able to be around them a little bit. But yeah, this situation, I was only able to go home, take a shower, come back. And it was hell for me. It was terrible. My pregnancy was terrible. I didn't get to experience, like I said, I didn't get a baby shower. I didn't get to get maternity clothes. I had to walk around with the clothes that I used to wear before I was pregnant, but I would have to walk with my pants unzipped and unbuttoned because I can't fit them over my stomach. Like, he didn't allow me to experience any happiness in my pregnancy, and it was awful. So finally, we get to the point where I get ready to go in labor, right? And so some of my family members came up there because I was able to contact people. And I did have people in the room who, loved me and who was very supportive. My son's father was there, but, he didn't really have too much to say. He was upset that other people were in the room, but oh well. So after I had our son, I pretty much was back at his house. I had moved into his house by this time because, I can't, I just had a baby. I'm not about to be going back and forth. So I pretty much moved into his house with him, into his bedroom, or basically his mom's house. And, I went through the hell that I was going through with no breaks. I didn't get to leave out and go home for a minute, or I was stuck. And so pretty much, even the way he had me with my son, it was crazy. He barely wanted me to hold him. He felt like he would be spoiled if I held him or played with him. Like, I couldn't even breastfeed my son because he felt like he didn't like it. He just didn't like the idea. I don't know why. But he didn't like the fact that I wanted to try to be natural and naturally feed my child. He just didn't want that. And it was terrible for me even to feed my son. I had to, I could feed him properly, but when it came to burping him, he wouldn't allow me to like hold him on my shoulder and burp him, because I don't know, it was like he just didn't want me to have a personal bond, a love bond with my son. I had to sit him on my lap and burp him like that. And it was terrible because, if I played with him a little bit and I put him down, if he started crying for me, then it's like, well, nah, you get him now, you done spoiled him. But he wasn't really being spoiled. I didn't get to love on my son the way I really wanted to, because his father was just evil. Like, he was very mean, and he didn't really want nobody else loving on him like that. Like, he loved him, like, don't get me wrong, it was just like he felt like if you show your baby too much love, it's spoiling them. You give them what they need. You can play with them every once in a while, but don't let them get used to it, because then they're going to be looking for it and crying for it. And he felt like that was being spoiled. So even with his mom, like when his dad used to go to work, because he had a little job there when I was living there too. When he would go to work, that's when I would take my son to his grandmother, because he didn't really want her holding him either. But when he was gone, we were free to be able to play with the baby, do stuff. She was able to hold her grandbaby as long as she wanted to and play with him and stuff. So it was like my poor son, he didn't get to have the type of love and affection that I wanted to give him. I wanted to hold my baby, sing to my baby, rock my baby. I wasn't allowed to do that. And if he wake up in the middle of the night, my job was to feed him a bottle, which I couldn't even, he wouldn't allow me to hold him to feed him. My son was a baby who slept in the crib with the bottle propped up. And I would stay awake to watch him drink his bottle, but I was not allowed to hold him and feed him at night. That's crazy, right? And then I would take the bottle, burp him, and put him back in the bed. There was no spending time with him like that. And to be honest, even though it was wrong and I didn't like it, it kind of taught my son to not be a fussy baby. Like, I didn't have to get up in the middle of the night and walk the halls with him and put him to sleep and all that, because it's like he knew he wasn't going to get it. He never had it. So yeah, he'll take his bottle and go back to sleep, or sometimes he'll have to cry himself to sleep because I was not allowed to nurture him the way that I wanted to. And so yeah, that really hurt me. And so then we ended up moving back to my house. Eventually we moved back to my house. I'm trying to remember how that happened, but yeah, we ended up moving back to my place somehow. I'm trying to remember because I still had my apartment. I was still paying rent, but for like a couple months, I stayed at my son's dad's house, and then eventually we moved back to my place. And when we moved back, my house was all clean and everything. Because remember, I said my family, they went in there and cleaned it up, and they wanted to have a baby shower for me, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't go. He didn't want anything from them. He didn't have nothing. It ain't like, it's not like he had money that could buy his baby stuff. He just didn't want he didn't want me to be connected to anyone. And he wasn't real close with his family. You know, he was living there with them, but it's not like he was just extremely close to his mom and his sisters. I mean, they loved him, but they couldn't stand him either. And they knew what he was doing was wrong. So yeah, y'all, it's a lot. It's a lot going into this story, but we're gonna go into the next phase of what happened once we move back into my house. So make sure you come back for part 2. All right. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hold up. Here we come with part 2.